Realty Nation, it's your host, Abhi Golhar. Welcome to the Think Realty Podcast. We have an awesome show lined up for you. Here's some kind of high-level topics we're talking about. Number one, delinquencies on hard money loans. Number two, irrational exuberance of fix and flip buyers. Number three, faulty execution of fix and flip buyers. That's right. If you're a fix and flipper, we're picking on you. It's the Think Realty Podcast. I cannot wait for this. This is going to be so much fun. This is going to be great. And then we're going to talk about the top cities where millennials are going to rule. So if you are starting to track some millennial migration movement, you want to know the top cities, you got to stay tuned. That's coming up after the interview. This podcast is brought to you by Nevada Real Estate Investments, your premier source for cash flow investment property. Check them out. Visit www.turnkeyrealestateinvestments.com. Joining me today are Sam and Charlie from Clear Sky Financial. And guys, I'm excited to have this conversation because there's not enough conversation around what's going well and what's going poorly in the fix and flip space. Everybody says, well, hey, like fix and flips, it's the new thing. You can make $75,000 in 2 weeks on a fix and flip. I mean, is that true?
Well, not really.
That should be the opener for the podcast. Well, not really. I love it.
So one of the things that we're seeing is that, especially at either courthouse auctions or purchasing from wholesalers, is that the fix and flip investor community, at least in the Washington, D.C., Maryland, Northern Virginia area, are bidding everything higher than 10% of certain bid prices.
Yep.
And a lot of times some margins are at a 10% margin. So what we're seeing is that these bidders are bidding properties into the future value instead of bidding on them in a present value. And so that is very scary for us.
Interesting. I want to get into that. There's so many topics that are like in my brain right now about this future value bidding versus the present value, what's actually really happening bidding. But I just realized I didn't even let you guys intro yourselves. So we're going to do that now. How selfish is me?
Sure,
I just want all the camera time. This is what I want. It's all about me. I'm totally kidding. Sam, you go first. Give me a little bit of info, who you are, what you do, and then we'll go to Charlie. A little bit of background, Clear Sky Financial, and the website,
Sure.
All that info.
So Charlie and I have been working in the real estate industry together for the last 18 years. We did real estate brokerage extensively. We did a lot of REO sales, hundreds and hundreds of REO sales, just a couple of us. And beyond that, we opened a hard money company about 6 years ago. Now, we have in the Washington, D.C. area covered the District of Columbia, Virginia, and Maryland is where we do our hard money business.
And I'm Charlie Einsmann, again, working with Sam for about 19 years. We've also fixed and flipped houses since 2003. So we are sort of the opposite entry into the hard money business in that we've probably flipped between 350 and 400 houses. And so we entered the hard money business through the fix and flip space. So we didn't start with a lot of hedge fund money. We sort of built our portfolio up from the ground up. And so that's how we entered into the hard money space as well. We still fix and flip houses. We still, obviously, we're hard money lenders, and we still have a buy and hold portfolio as well of rental housing.
Incredible. What does your overall buy and hold portfolio look like? And the reason I ask this is because real estate fix and flippers and a lot of your wholesalers are not doing that, right? They're not buying and holding property. So I just want to just kind of get a gauge on those folks that are smart, like you gentlemen. What are you doing?
So our portfolio of assets is principally single-family residences in the Northern Virginia area.
Okay.
And we also have a couple of industrial properties and commercial assets that we manage and maintain.
Yeah, so one of our rule of thumbs, especially on the residential side, when we're thinking about purchasing properties and putting them into our buy and hold portfolio, we've got a simple number. It's called 100 times rents. So if we can purchase a property at 100 times rents to include the rental ready renovation, then we'll keep that property, sock it away, and put it into our rental portfolio. Now, what's happened over time in this area is that prices have gone up since 2009. We're on like a 10-year run. Prices have gone up, rents have stayed steady. So in order to do a buy and hold, it's very challenging because the numbers don't make sense from our perspective. So we have a very simple strategy. It's 100 times rents. It's within that arena that we'll put in our buy and hold portfolio.
So hold on. I've been hearing a lot of news lately about how rents have also gone up, and that's why it's becoming really a good idea to buy and hold single family rentals. And I do want to get into some of the topics here, but like what you're telling me is rents haven't really gone up.
Not nearly in our region as price values have. So in 2008, if you were acquiring houses, you could easily use our math model. Now it's much more challenging.
Got it. Okay. Well, I'm going to keep that in mind. So let's talk about delinquencies on hard money loans. Both of you are successful investors, you're successful lenders, and you have this company called Clear Sky Financial. And this is a very interesting topic coming from a hard money lender, that there are delinquencies in this space.
Oh, there certainly are. And candidly, when the market was ever expanding, they were less relevant. You catch someone up if they're closing with a 6-month delinquency, some penalties, you make plenty of money, they are delinquent. That is no longer something that's manageable, tenable, or at all reasonable to us. So our approach is a 3-2-1 approach. You get a call on the first month you're late, you get a letter the second month you're late, and another call, and the third month late, you're foreclosed. That's it. No, and we tightened our entire portfolio up, and we did it over the last, say, 18 to 24 months.
Mm-hmm.
Very effective, very good timing. We're now talking to other hard money lenders who didn't do that. They're actually sending us around to look at their assets to see if we want to buy their defaulting loans at a discount, and we're seeing assets that have just been completely depleted, houses that are just turned to almost zero value except for the land, that weren't worked on by borrowers and were not foreclosed on by lenders. So we think this is like a critical time for hard money lenders to be focused on what they're holding.
So Charlie, why would that happen, right? Like, why would there be that gap in the market, in the marketplace amongst hard money lenders? Was it just they were ignoring these signs and they were saying, well, hey, okay, I mean, they're eventually going to finish the project, so why might as well just play along and not shore up the books? Is that kind of what happened?
Yeah, what happened in a lot of cases in our area is that the hard money lenders were failing to execute on their business model. In other words, when they had a fix and flip investor come and renovate a property, they might renovate a property for $100,000 and maybe give them 4 draws of $25,000. Instead of going and doing a property check after draw one's $25,000, they gave the entire amount of money out on the entire draw without going by the property even once. What's happened to a lot of these properties is that a lot of them, the basements are getting flooded, they're getting moldy, and so not only was the investment dollar, the renovation dollars not spent, but it was spent on other projects, which left that asset of which the dollars were drawn down on not being worked on and in a very risky fashion. And so because of that, the property value has gone down a little bit. Plus, they're not paying their property taxes. There's a lot of inherent risk if you don't execute your business model on the hard money side. And the business model does not stop when you give the loan.
That's a very, very powerful statement. Right?
We think of a business model in 3 parts.
Yeah.
When you give the loan, when you're operating and servicing the loan, and then any kind of workout that you have to do on it. The best deal in the world is if you're the borrower the day you close the loan. A lot of lenders are thinking, oh, well, we've got a great yield here. We're going to capture whatever percentage they're looking for, and we're all set. It's not captured until it's paid off. So the day of the closing is the best deal for the borrower every time. And you got to keep that in your mind as you go through the business cycle.
So let's talk about this irrational exuberance of fix and flippers. I can understand that because these TV shows like HGTV, they've made it really sexy to buy and flip a house in like an hour, right? Like,
Right.
is
So
that
the
what's
hour
driving
flip
this
doesn't
exuberance,
exist.
or what? Is it?
The hour flip is only if you're a wholesaler and you're going to pass that off to someone that you know is going to pay more money for it than you. There's no hour flip.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, one of the things that we're seeing is that in our area, you have this, money's easy. If there's a good deal, someone's going to come up with the money. That has played a crucial role in this segment. And what's going on is that we show up to courthouse auctions. We're on, I can't tell you how many different wholesaler lists, cash buyer lists in this area. And especially at the courthouse auctions, these properties are getting bid up to where the profit margin is getting bid out. And what the investors are thinking that they can do is save on the renovation costs to sort of circumvent the fact that they overbid on the property. And that's very dangerous. On the wholesale side, what's going on is a wholesaler will send out a mass email to about, let's say, 200 or 300 cash buyers. They'll then take final and best offers. And again, it's the same kind of bidding war that's out there. And so these fix and flip investors are just desperate for inventory, and they're willing to bid these margins very, very thin. And so that's got us concerned as well. And it also has us a lot more conservative on the hard money side.
So in the hard money space, we see a lot of the borrowers are actually contractors, not just investors, but they're buying themselves work to complete. So they're able to bid higher amounts than an investor would, because they're padding their own operational overhead into that purchase price.
Yes. So let's take that example of the contractors. I'm assuming then if the borrower himself or herself is also a contractor, a licensed contractor, then the only challenge that this contractor would have is scaling the business and making sure the crews are running properly, right? Have you ever
Well, the kind of contractors you find in this space are not necessarily even licensed, and they don't have large crews, generally speaking. So they're going to be an individual who's managing the site themselves, who's going to Home Depot themselves, who's provisioning it and trying to drive down their margin and just make money flipping houses rather than having to deal with customer service in an industry where they need to be licensed.
So where's the play for investors, right? Is the play to be buying and holding? Because we talked about the irrational exuberance. The execution is terrible for some of these folks, and like you just mentioned, some of the borrower contractors are not even licensed. So if you're not licensed, you're doing faulty work, you're not doing stuff on time, your profit margins are being compressed, and wholesalers are running amok saying, well, it's a free market, and we're going to bid up prices an extra $50,000, and I know that's happening because I sent out my own property to my own list to sell, and I got it back to me. It was marketed back to me $75,000 more.
That's right.
Than my freaking asking price. And I'm like,
that's right. All right.
What the heck is going on?
Right. So one of the things that we do as a hard money lender, and I think this is why people love us the most, is that we educate investors. So investors will call me all the time and they'll say, I've got such and such property. I've got 6 properties that I want to put offers in on. And I'll say to them right away, I'll say, are they MLS properties? And of course, they're going to come back and say yes. And I keep telling the same thing over and over again. I said, this is not the good way to find these properties. The best and most successful way that we know to find properties is in this thing called the hidden market. The hidden market is a market that does not exist on overtly. What it is a market of houses where people don't realize they're really for sale. It's driving for dollars. It's vacant houses. It's houses with overgrown lawns. It's out-of-state owners. These are the kinds of things that these folks have got to do. They've got to get in their car. They got to drive for dollars, and they've got to, what I call, create self-lists. They've got to put these lists together themselves. They've got to go do the courthouse review and figure out the chain of ownership. They got to figure out where the owner is living and just send them mailers as well, because everybody's doing the same thing. They're buying out-of-town owner lists. They're mailing out all these cards. So you've got to work into this thing called the hidden market. And so we're constantly educating our borrowers on that concept. And so what happens is once these borrowers find a couple nuggets in this hidden market, then we actually have clients for life. So we're constantly educating our borrowers.
I completely agree with this concept. We talk about even probate leads, for example, fantastic opportunity.
Right.
I used to run after probate leads until I built a system around it, and now I just kind of let the system do its thing. Tax liens. I totally agree with what you're saying. You know, we have to look at unconventional
You got to
methods.
go to ground.
Yeah, instead of only looking at the MLS, to find what everybody's running after, which is these off-market leads. But Charlie, I agree. I mean, I think the hidden market is such an important tool, and the only way that you can find these deals is to actually do the work. Right? There's no other way. Let's talk about real quick, kind of wrapping up this conversation. Let's talk about consolidation in the hard money lending space. What's happening with that, and what's this expected timeline? Like, what should I expect as an investor, and is there opportunity for me in this space?
Okay, one of the things that we're seeing is that we're seeing IRA investors. There is a lot of IRA investors that are managing their own hard money portfolios within their IRAs.
Okay.
Self-directed IRA money.
Self-directed IRA money, and these guys, you can call them hard money lenders, but they're not really hard money lenders. And so they have portfolios anywhere between $5 and $12 million within their IRA. The problem that they're running into is that because the market is hitting peaks and they're having to foreclose and take properties back, these IRA investors do not want to deal with the actual properties themselves.
They have no loss mitigation strategy.
Right. They have no loss mitigation strategy. So what's happening is these IRA investors that are in the hard money space are wanting to exit the hard money space and then take their money and invest it with a hard money lender who has processes in place to handle this kind of thing. And so that's scaring a lot of guys out.
Wait. So hold on. So you're telling me that there are folks that have a lot of money in their self-directed IRA, and they lend it out as a hard money loan to a borrower. But for one reason or the other, their loss mitigation strategy just doesn't exist. So if it doesn't exist, and if they didn't have a backup worst case scenario, guys, why
they take it to foreclosure? They take it to foreclosure. They let it go at foreclosure. And they could be looking at material losses, offsetting any gains they've had for months and months on end. Because they don't get involved with the borrower, they don't work the borrower out, they don't help the borrower with construction projects and planning. They're just there as a source of funds, and they're not engaged in their business.
Right, because by definition, for a self-directed IRA, right, you can't be personally involved in that property.
Well, there's that as well. Exactly.
This has been an awesome conversation for me because I've learned a lot, not only about the delinquencies that are currently occurring with the hard money loans, but more specifically what fix and flippers are doing incorrectly, and where the opportunity is for a real estate investor like me to work with folks like you, not only to borrow for the right reasons, but also take a look at this hidden market. So that was a lot of fun, so certainly appreciate it. Clear Sky Financial, what's the best way to get in touch? Maybe a phone number, email address, that kind of thing would be super, super duper helpful.
71039.
Yeah, and then our website is www.cskyfinancial.com.
Got it.
cskyfinancial.com.
Got it. That phone number one more time?
703-887-1039.
Perfect. Gentlemen, thanks so much. This was a lot of fun, and I have a couple of ideas for you, so I'll reach out here in the next week or so, definitely sooner rather than later, and I'd love to brainstorm a few ideas with you guys. So thanks so much again for your time. You got it. Sam and Charlie from Clear Sky Financial. All right, Think Realty Nation, this next segment is brought to you by Real Property Management, which is the largest residential property management franchise in North America, managing tens of thousands of properties for individuals, investors, and institutions throughout the country. Learn more at realpropertymgt.com or call 888-806-7088. All right, so if you're like tracking millennials and where they're headed, and you want to follow them, and you want to capitalize on rents, for example, here are the top metros for millennials. Starting with number 10, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Oh, Twin Cities right over there. That's always fun. Let's see, number 9, Providence, Rhode Island. Number 8, Portland, Maine. Number 7, Rochester, New York. I'm not a really big fan of like the northeastern cities just because it gets way too cold up there. But fine, Portland and Rochester, I'll give you that. Number 6, Allentown, Pennsylvania. Number 6, that's Allentown, Pennsylvania. Number 5, where are you? Colorado Springs, Colorado. Number 4, Madison, Wisconsin. Number 3, Scranton, Pennsylvania. Number 2 is Salt Lake City, Utah. And number 1, which is very interesting, and I called this city. This was like, I don't know, a couple months ago, I was talking to somebody about it right here on the Think Realty podcast, Grand Rapids, Michigan. And it is, we'll have to do like a market spotlight on Grand Rapids, Michigan and figure out why it's the number 1 top metro for millennials. So I'll do some digging and get some additional information for y'all. But Grand Rapids, Michigan coming at number 1. I like that. Yeah, I gotta love Grand Rapids, Michigan. All right, Think Realty Nation. That's a wrap. That's the show. Got any questions you want to get in touch? Easy to do it. Go to thinkrealty.com. This entire show has been brought to you by one of my really, really awesome providers, Narada Real Estate Investments, really good friends, Marco Santarelli. Narada Real Estate Investments is your premier source for cash flow investment property. Visit www.turnkeyrealestateinvestments.com. So that's the show. You can reach me anywhere online, on Instagram or LinkedIn at Abhi Golhar. And until next time, Think Realty Nation, happy investing.